So I don't normally make YouTubes. I only do it when there's some content that I really feel is missing in YouTube. And in the case of electric unicycles, in general, I ran out of content. Before I buy something, I generally geek out pretty hard on all of the YouTubes, and I felt like I kind of hit the limit of what was out there. But in particular, what I didn't find was anything about being bigger, taller, and older as a rider of electric unicycles. And so what I'm going to talk about today is this is really for you if you are sort of in those categories of bigger, taller, older person who's thinking about getting an electric unicycle. I'm not super experienced. I've ridden about 200, 250 miles. I've been commuting to work for maybe 3-4 months now, off and on when it wasn't raining. And so what I'm going to tell you about is my experiences learning, and I'll tell you some tips about learning and how long it takes. I'll tell you about unicycle selection and what I went through. I'll tell you about gear and accessories because basically because I think if I fall off, I'm going to get more hurt than I would have when I was 20. I wear a lot of gear. And then lastly, I'm going to say something about riding at night because I've been commuting a lot at night. So first of all, some stats about me to sort of calibrate where I might land compared to you. I'm 58. I'm 6'4". I weigh about 220 pounds. And I had a hip replacement about 2 years ago. So prior to the hip replacement, though, I was pretty athletic. So I did martial arts. I was a skater growing up, and I rode a manual unicycle growing up, although I haven't really ridden a skateboard or a manual unicycle for 30 years probably. But I did martial arts until fairly recently. So first of all, let me talk about learning. What everybody asks me is there a long learning curve on riding an electric unicycle? For me, there was and there wasn't. Like, I got up and was riding on a unicycle in the first 5 minutes. I mean, I was right away, I was able to stand on it and move around. But it took me months to actually stop being scared. And the reason is, I wasn't in control of the unicycle, and I didn't feel like I was first of all, I had my unicycle set to only 18 miles an hour for a long time. Nonetheless, when I first started riding, if something happened, like somebody stepped out in front of me, I was gonna bite it. And also because a unicycle is something you may never have ridden before, an electric unicycle, you don't know what's going to happen. You have to kind of be prepared to not react right. Like the physics of a unicycle is nothing like the physics of a skateboard or the physics of anything else. And so if something surprising happens, it's quite likely that you're going to respond wrong. And you just don't know until you've had a lot of practice. So it took me about 2 months, I think. I probably rode 100 miles before I felt like I was really, like I was just having fun, as opposed to, riding around all the time scared out of my wits. In terms of unicycle selection, I ended up getting an Inmotion V10. Now, I don't have a ton of experience riding a lot of different unicycles. I rented one for a little while. And I thought that was a really good idea. If you live in a big enough city where you can actually get one and rent it, I highly recommend it just as sort of a proof of concept. It wasn't expensive. I went to Tech Toys in San Jose and was able to rent what was essentially like a version 2, like a second generation Gotway. It looked sort of like a guitar amp. It was square. And it was an 18-inch wheel. Really did not feel very secure on that unicycle, was always riding around, afraid. But I went down to San Diego. I happened to be in San Diego for a business trip, and there's an Inmotion shop there. And I was initially attracted to Inmotion because I thought they were a U.S. company, which they're not, but they do have a U.S. distributor in San Diego. And the reason I was interested in a U.S. company is I wanted to know this is a little weird. I wanted to know that they were somebody I could sue. And if they're a company in China, I don't even know if that's possible. And it's not actually that I want to sue them, but I want their financial interests to be aligned with my physical safety. And so I wanted somebody who was on the hook. But I haven't been able to find that. I mean, basically, everything that I've been able to find is manufactured and sold out of China, except for the one wheel. Now, the one wheel I considered, it's one you stand sideways on, but I just thought that electric unicycles were too cool, and that's what I had to have. So I went down to San Diego and I tried the V8, which is a smaller version of the V10. And when I got on it, again, it felt, the word I want to use is squirrely. It felt like the Gotway, like it was doing things that I was not in control of. I would try to turn one way and it would wobble and do all sorts of weird stuff. It's a very small unicycle. And then I got on the V10, and the V10 was just a dream. A lot of people talk about the V10 as being sort of the SUV of unicycles. Awesome, because I'm kind of the SUV of humans. I needed a bigger unicycle, and it goes up really high on my calf. I can bring it out, but my camera's not really set up right. Let me try. Yeah, I'm still going to have to lift it up. I don't have the right lens. So anyway, here's the V10. It's got the cover on. It comes with the cover right now if you order it. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of things about it that I really love. First of all, a lot of people online talked about how it had rubber, whatever these things are, foot pegs, and that they felt like that might be slippery in the rain. And I'll tell you, they're right. I would be really scared to ride around on this thing if it had rubber foot pads, but it doesn't anymore. The latest model has the sandpaper on here, so it actually feels really safe. I have size 14 feet, so my feet do hang off of this pedal, but if this pedal was smaller, it would be horrible, and a lot of people really like these big pedals. I do too. Some people complain about this handle. And the reason they complain about it is they feel it feels a little bit wobbly. I don't really care. I find as long as I have it turned on, I can maneuver this unicycle beautifully using this. And also, if you see it from the side, it looks like sort of a thin little handle here. I think you can see that. But if you look at it this way, it's actually really robust. It's a pretty thick handle, and I like it a lot. The unicycle's heavy. It weighs something like 45 pounds, but I very rarely have to lift it up. I lift it up to get onto a bus, and sometimes on stairs, but for the most part, I don't actually have to lift it up. The one thing I will say is that since I got this, I have learned that wheel pressure is so important that I don't know that those other unicycles were actually not great unicycles for me. They may have been great unicycles, but they may have just been pumped up really high. And so when I pump this up over up to 40 pounds or higher, I don't like the way it rides. And I'll try to turn left, it tries to turn right. It's weird, right? So I don't know. I don't have a ton of experience. What I can tell you is that when I have this pumped up to 30 pounds, I just love the ride. I feel secure on it, and after a couple months of riding, and I can just blast around at a speed that is 25 miles an hour is good and scary. I mean, you don't feel like you're going slow. You're passing bikes, especially on the uphill. I love passing bikes on the uphill. I will say, though, that on steeper hills, I have maxed it out, and it at least one time, because I was racing a bike and I wanted to blow his doors off. And so what happened was I did pass him, but then it said, "Please get off," and it slows down and tells you to get off, which I thought was pretty funny. I will tell you in terms of distance, I'm getting about, I ride about 10 miles a day, and I didn't get the V10F, which has a bigger battery. I kind of wish I had. I got just the V10, but and so I'm getting, by the end of the day, I can run out my battery pretty good, even after 10 miles. And it's partially because I think maybe because I'm big, and also because I'm starting to ride more aggressively. But what I did to solve that is a lot cheaper than actually getting the V10F. What I did is I just I bought a new charger, and I put that at work. And that way, I'm charged. I'm fully charged by the time I start heading home. So, and how much battery am I actually using up? I'm probably only using up in 10 miles about half. But it starts to behave a little differently when it's low on battery. Like it will start to limit you a little more, and I don't like that. So I got a second charger. Let me say a little bit more about learning. Out of the 200 or 250 miles that I've done, at least 50 of that is practice. And so what I found is incredibly important for safety is this. Find yourself a big parking lot and do lots of figure eights. So make sure you know how to turn left and how you know how to turn right, and really practice it. I have found, I've ever seen online has said this, that posture is incredibly important. They've said some of this. You want to stand very upright. Bring your hips forward, especially in a turn and in a stop. You don't want to be sticking out your butt. And when you're riding on the straightaway, you want your posture to be very, very good, because when you hit a bump, you don't want to wobble like a noodle. What you want to do is you just want to be like a broomstick being balanced on somebody's finger. Of particular importance when you're learning is starts and stops, and here's why. The 2 times that I almost died on this unicycle so far were because of this. I came up to an intersection, and I stopped, and then I waited until it was clear for me to cross, and then I looked down at my feet, and it took me like 3 seconds, and I got up on it. I wasn't moving very fast yet, and then I started to move. And in those 5 seconds, between when I decided it was safe to cross and when I actually started to cross, it stopped being safe. All of a sudden, there was a car bearing down on me, and I wasn't skilled enough to just accelerate out of that situation. And it was really, really, it was really dangerous. And so what that means is, if you're going to practice one thing, practice doing everything without looking at your feet. And that means starts, and that means turns. You want to keep your eyes up, and you want to, in particular when you're starting, you want to be able to not take your eyes off the road. You want to be able to go from a start to rapid motion as quickly as possible. And so nowadays when I go and I just practice stopping all the time. Stopping, starting, stopping, starting, stopping, starting. And I can't tell you how much better I feel about it. Also, when you're turning, I had to practice going down the street and looking over my shoulder to see behind me without, steering into oncoming traffic or something like that. So being able to basically be eyes up and to be able to move your eyes and take corners where your eyes are leading you instead of looking at the ground, super, super important. So let me talk about gear. Theoretically, I'm going to show you a picture of all my gear here. Hopefully I do that. And it's a lot of gear. I'm going to call out a few special pieces of gear that I think are particularly important, and a few things that I've done with my gear that I think are useful. But just in my philosophy in general as an older writer and a bigger writer is I'm going to fall, and I don't want to screw myself up really bad because I may not heal as quick. In any way, the I told you so's that you're going to get when you're almost 60 and you fall off an electric unicycle are way more painful than the ones you're going to get when you're 25. So I don't want to hear it. And so I don't want to get hurt for those reasons. So let me walk through a couple of the items of equipment that I have. So first of all, I wear a full face helmet. Because when I fall off the unicycle, I'm going to land on my face, and I kind of know it. And so I wanted something that was going to protect my face. Yeah, I mean, the truth is a lot of people just wear light helmets either because they're smaller or because they want to look cool or something like that. I think this looks pretty badass. In fact, I've had people yell out to me going down the street, "Sick helmet, dude." I should mention, one of the things about riding an electric unicycle is that you are a celebrity. And so people come out all the time. Like that same group of guys who were yelling "sick helmet," one guy ran out in the middle of the street and gave me a high five as I was going by at 25 miles an hour. So anyway, I like this helmet, but I will tell you I'm upgrading. And the reason I'm upgrading is I wear contact lenses, and I'm constantly getting shit in my eyes. Bugs, bees, smacking me in the face. And also, I'm riding around in the winter. Yeah, it's California's winter, so we don't have ice or anything like that. But it is usually about 40 degrees. And just the cold air in my eyes, I'm constantly crying. I have tears running down my cheeks. And so I'm upgrading to a true motorcycle helmet that has a visor. I don't care that it's heavier. Well, I haven't ridden with it yet. It's still in the mail. So I can't guarantee I'm going to like it better. But, so I got these shin pads and knee pads. And these are Fox. They strap on pretty easily and quick. One of the things I need from my gear is I need it to strap on pretty quick. If it's hard to put on, I'm gonna get tired of it and I'm not gonna do it. And so these snap on pretty quick. When I rented the unicycle and when I went to drop it off, the guy who rented it to me was on crutches. And the reason was he hit a pothole going about 25 and he got just ejected. And worse than ejected, he landed, when he landed, one foot was off the unicycle and one was on, and he just went right down on his knees. And so his knee was as big as a melon. I don't want that to happen to me, and so I wear at least knee pads. The second thing is that when I was first learning, one time I jumped off the unicycle and it tipped halfway over, and then it spun around really fast and it absolutely demolished my shin. And so if you don't want to see a gross picture, you might want to close your eyes for a second, and I'll tell you when you can look again. Okay, that's what happened to my shin. And so at least with these, especially when you're first learning, having shin guards is not a bad idea. So what else do I have? Wrist guards. So these are the Flex Meter wrist guards. And I wear them with my old bike gloves. But everybody says in the unicycle world that if you're going to wear two things, wear a helmet and wear wrist guards. So I dig these wrist guards. But I'll tell you what I've done is I've modified them. Which is, I have this. This is a Lezyne, Lezyne XL light. And what I do to ride at night is I attach this right here. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but what I do is I attach the light right on the side of my wrist guard. And so, as far as I know, this only works with the Lezine lights, the Lezine XLs, because they're, well, I just haven't tested it with anything else. But what it means is that I have one of these on each wrist, so that when I'm riding around, I have headlights. And I mean, the V10 has a headlight, but there's a couple of things about it. Again, maybe this is because I'm older. My night vision's not that great, and so I need more light. And second of all, I like to have control over the light so that I can flash it at other cars when I'm driving around. So in general, once I have those two lights on my wrist, I can really see, and I think that's a big innovation. What else do I have? I wear elbow pads as well as the helmet. And then lastly, I just got these gloves and this jacket. I wear these as well. They're just, it's a super reflective jacket and super reflective gloves. I just don't want to be hit by a car, and why not? I went out and I took some footage of myself riding around at night because I wanted to see what that looked like, and I wanted to share it with you. And a funny thing happened while I was out there. I went out to this pretty far away, edge of town kind of road so that it wouldn't have any headlights. And while I was setting up the camera, just as I set up the camera, a guy comes out of the dark and he's driving a one wheel, and he drives right in front of my camera and down the road. And so it's awesome because I can actually show you sort of the difference between his setup and my setup and how we look at night. So here's this guy on a one wheel, and he looks pretty awesome, but you can see a couple of things about it. First of all, I want you to notice that he disappears just about at the first no parking sign. Everything's gone except for his light. The other thing to see is just how broad is the spread of his light as compared to mine in just a couple of seconds. So here I come, and by the way, this is in the headlights of my car. So my lights, my jacket's all lit up. You can see that, first of all, I got a really big spread on the lights. Second of all, I didn't disappear as soon as I moved past the no parking sign. I'm totally bright and lit up. So I turn around down there, and I'm coming back, and you can see we never got to see the guy on the one wheel coming toward us. He had a headlight right on the front of his board, but I think I'm pretty unmistakable. I think I look like I'm a cross between a UFO and a Christmas tree coming back here, and that's the look I'm trying for. So it's pretty awesome. What I did next is I did it without the headlights, and so you can see my jacket's not lit up at all. But again, I'm pretty bright. I think this camera sees just a little better than human eyesight, so it's a little brighter than I really am. But you can see how much of the road I've lit up with all of my lights. The one thing I would add, I've found this in other sports, hunting and like spearfishing, which is the lower you can put a light to the ground, the better you can pick up fluctuations in the ground. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't like a headlamp in a lot of those situations. I like a lamp that's closer to my hands. So anyway, that's everything I know. I'm still learning, like I said. I will say that riding my unicycle to work is absolutely the best part of my day. I mean, it has taken a commute which was dreary, and it's made it into just a thrill every single day. So I hope this is helpful, and good luck.